Afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. More people will join as we continue, because this is an important topic for not just for the BBPA but for community. So I want to say good afternoon and thank you for joining us. We know that there are so many places you could be on this fine day, but we're grateful you took the time to be with us. To start off, let us recognize those who came before us with the land acknowledgement.
Land acknowledgement. As we gather together, we acknowledge the sacred land on which we reside. It has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, this gathering place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. We are also mindful of broken covenants and the need to strive to make right with all our relations. Last but certainly not least, we acknowledge the people of African descent who were brought here against their own will or in search of a safe place to live their lives and raise their children. Reconnaissance des terres. En nous rassemblant, nous reconnaissons la terre sacrée sur laquelle nous résidons. C'est un site d'activité humaine depuis 15 000 ans. Cette terre est le territoire des Premières Nations Huron-Wendat et Petun, les Séniques et plus récemment les Mississaugas de la rivière Crédit. Le territoire était sujet de l'alliance de la ceinture Wampum plat avec cuillère, un accord entre la Confédération Iroquois et Confédération des Ojibwe et des nations alliées à partager et à prendre soin pacifiquement pour les ressources autour des Grands Lacs. Aujourd'hui, ce lieu de rassemblement est toujours le foyer de nombreux peuples autochtones de toute l'île de la Tortue et nous sommes reconnaissants d'avoir la possibilité de travailler dans la communauté sur ce territoire. Nous sommes également conscients des alliances brisées et de la nécessité de nous efforcer de guérir toutes nos relations. Dernier point, mais non le moindre, nous remercions les personnes d'ascendance africaine qui ont été amenées ici contre leur volonté ou à la recherche d'un endroit sûr où vivre leur vie et élever leurs enfants.
Thank you, Nash. I am looking to see if our president was on, but I think she will join us later, so we will invite her to say a few words. So once again, let me thank you for joining us today on this Ask a Professional, where we get to know the Caribbean Consular Corps. Full transparency, I sit on the body of this Corps as Dominica's Trade and Investment Commissioner, but today I sit in the position of Executive Director for the Black Business and Professional Association, Canada's leading Black organization, dedicated to making a difference for our national community in the fields of business, employment, education, and economic development. A large portion of the BBPA's Black community is of Caribbean descent, and representing the governments of those Caribbean islands, or those Caribbean countries rather, is the Caribbean Consular Corps. Today we get to know them and what they do. But before we start, I want to recognize our summer student, Naj Taylor, who is a graduate of Durham College and who is helping me as my assistant today. Welcome, Naj. This is your first Zoom experience with us as a backgrounder, so I'm sure you will do well. So today we have the consuls generals, and they'll introduce themselves, but I'm going to ask a senior member of the Toronto Consular Corps, the Dean of the Toronto Consular Corps, Consul General for Antigua and Barbuda, Miss Anne-Marie Lane, to introduce herself and speak to us about what her role is as Dean of the Toronto Consular Corps.
Thank you, Francis. Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly a pleasure for me to be here with you this afternoon. I am Anne-Marie Lane, Consul General of Antigua and Barbuda. We are the only island in the Caribbean that can boast 365 beaches, and we're also home to the Antigua Black Pineapple. In my capacity as Dean of the CCAT, which is the Consular Corps Association of Toronto. The association is comprised of 105 countries, which are represented by consulates and honorary consulates. Primarily, our role is to engage with the provincial government, the cities in the GHTA, with businesses, with academic institutions, not only to network and to promote our countries, but also to create linkages that can be mutually beneficial. We have monthly meetings where we invite guest speakers to talk on topics of interest to the association. I should state that membership, the association is for members only, and as I said, we meet monthly. We will be having a meeting tomorrow where we will have an engagement with the Honorable Vic Fideli, who's the Minister of Economic Development in Ontario. Thank you, Francis.
Thanks, C.G. Lane. I will now ask C.G. Lincoln Downer, who is the new chair of the Caribbean Consular Corps, to speak on the Caribbean Consular Corps and to just introduce himself and speak on the Caribbean Consular Corps, its makeup.
Thank you so much, Francis. It is indeed my pleasure to be with you today and with my colleagues to share a little bit more about ourselves and what we do. I am Lincoln George Downer, recently appointed since August of last year as Jamaica's Consul General at Toronto. I'm also pleased that I'm representing my country, the home of reggae music and the fastest people on this planet. I also am delighted to state that my consular corps colleagues represent an eclectic bunch, which is representative of the Caribbean, from Cuba in the north to Trinidad in the south. And we are a collegiate community. We basically we convene meetings monthly, as Anne-Marie said, even consistent with the CCAT, and we meet to discuss matters of mutual interest, and we share common interests, common challenges. But in all of this, we represent our own countries, so we follow our own dictates and priorities, but we also are compliant with the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations of 1963. Thank you.
Thank you, C.G. Downer. So now we'll ask Consul General Sonia Marville Carter of Barbados to introduce herself.
Good afternoon now, everybody. Yes, it's afternoon. Good afternoon. Wonderful to be here with you all. It is great to see a lot of you. I'm seeing a number of people for the first time. So let me introduce myself. I am Sonia Marville Carter, and I am Consul General for the birthplace of rum and Rihanna and Sagari Sobers. If you don't know where that is, just look behind me and you see, you figure that out already. It's Barbados, of course. I have my flag right behind me and a pop-up which says Barbados. So that is me, and let me just say hello. And we're here today, as Francis would have indicated. Thank you for putting this together as well in the BBPA, to almost demystify the roles of consul, general, and the diplomatic corps, because I know a lot of people are really not sure exactly what happens. So we're hoping today that we will be able to demystify that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, C.G. Carter. We'll go to C.G. Cheryl Francis of St. Lucia. You're on mute.
Hi, sorry. Good afternoon again to my fellow colleagues, members of the Caribbean diaspora. I am Cheryl Francis, Consul General for St. Lucia here in Toronto. And of course, I'm delighted to join everyone here on this call, in this discussion with our favorite people in the diaspora. And of course, kudos to the Business and Professional Association for pulling this together. And St. Lucia, let me say, is very well known and famous for its landmark, the Pitons, and the world's largest drive-in volcano, commonly known as the Sulphur Springs. And most of all, though, I will say that St. Lucia is known as the honeymoon destination, winning the World Travel Awards 11 times as honeymoon destination. So for all you romantic people out there, for all persons looking for romance, St. Lucia is the place to go. Our tagline is "Let her inspire you," and I can tell you she certainly does. So looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you, CG Francis, and I will ask CG Manette from Trinidad and Tobago. CG, yeah.
Thank you, Frances, and hello to everyone joining in today. My name is Tracy Ramsubag Manette, and I've been the Acting Consul General of Trinidad and Tobago since December last year. So I'm one of the newer kids on the block, so to speak. I'm very proud to represent the interests of Trinidad and Tobago here in Toronto. For those not so familiar with us, we are the home of soca, calypso, and chutney music, the inventor of the steel pan. Our festivals, particularly Carnival, are world-renowned. And then there's my personal favorite thing that comes from Trinidad and Tobago, which is all the sorts of culinary delights that reflect our culturally diverse nation. So thanks to the BBPA for organizing this event, and looking forward to chatting with everyone about the role that we play here.
Thank you very much, CG Manette. So I see that our president has joined us. So I will invite her to say a few words.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much, Francis. And good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to see you all here. You know, the words that I heard, I hear the rum, the romance, the speed, the passion, all of these wonderful things. You see, this is what people need to know. So when we can travel again, we can book destinations where there's all these wonderful things happening, not just from a tourist perspective, but from an investment perspective, all of those things. I was invited to the Consul Corp dinner, I think last December, friend? With this COVID environment, time has just gone by so
quick. It was 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago, where we had some incredible, delicious food, great conversations, and I had the opportunity to meet so many of you. Sonia Marvell Carter, it was so good to see you again. And Anne-Marie Lane, good to see you. And of course, Lincoln Downer, welcome and good to see you. And Tracy, great to see you as well. Did I miss anyone, Fran?
As Cheryl Francis St. Lucia.
Oh, and Cheryl Francis St. Lucia. Oh, that invited me to that wonderful dinner. It's so great to see you again. It's so great to see you again. The thing that fills my heart and the spirit of who we are as Caribbean people is that warmth, and it's that love, and it's that camaraderie. So welcome to the BBPA. I'm so thrilled to have you here, and at some point we will have you in person when we can. But this is a great opportunity. You know, Francis and I talk about the opportunities for our community to hear about the resources that is available through the Consul Corp. And I think partnerships and synergies are great, and we look forward to that. And thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to working with you in any capacity at all in the future. Merci.
Thanks, President Nadine. As I listened to you all speak about your different islands, and there were 12 members of the Caribbean Consular Corps, it is evident then that we need to bring the others. I know that he's moved away for a while, but the consul for Guyana, Gerald White, is here, and I know that you know, the other islands, including Dominica, would want to get the little piece of the pie on this program as well. So maybe that is something that we'll have a part two at some other time. So to begin the question and answer, so we get to know you better, I'll start with Sonia Marvell Carter, and I'll ask you, what are the main functions of the consulate? What are some of your day-to-day functions? Let's demystify this role for the audience today.
Thanks for the question, Francis. I would want to start out by saying kind of piggybacking on something that that Lincoln would have mentioned, and that yes, we are all still although we're a cohesive, we're all still different entities representing different islands and countries. So we do have different structures. Therefore, some of our day-to-day functions may differ. However, generally speaking, we spend time, of course, dealing with our consular matters, and the consular matters will include, of course, like passports, renewing of passports, and issuing visas, and authenticating documents, and things like that, of course. But a large part of it is also spent, of course, with the diaspora, those who have the diaspora as part of their mandate and their structure. We also deal with the diaspora. So we engage in the diaspora and ensuring that they're aware of what's happening still in our country, up to date on everything that's happening. Of course, a large part of it is our tourism push, and our trade and investment is a very big part of it. So I would say generally on a day-to-day basis, our time is spent between handling consular matters, dealing with trying to build relationships and bilateral agreements and multilateral agreements in some instances. And like I said, getting investment and so on for our particular countries, and ensuring that our diaspora is aware of everything that we're doing. If I left anything out, any of the others want to jump in and mention anything that I may have left out that we do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, a large part of it, like I said, is making sure that our diaspora and our nationals are well taken care of. But like I said, if I missed anything, please jump in.
Sonia, I'd just like to add that we also engage the provincial government, which is what consuls general do, versus what a high commissioner would be dealing with global affairs. And we also would be linking with Canadian NGOs and others who have interests in our respective countries. And so we basically build bridges across the divide.
Tracy, you wanted to say something as well? You good? Anybody else? Cheryl?
No, I was just saying, and it's just like St. Lucia, though several members of our diaspora probably don't know that we also have a high commissioner who is non-resident, and he resides in the US. However, he deals with the government at the federal level, and I deal with the provincial and the consular core services throughout Canada. So together we handle the diplomatic relations in Canada.
Francis, if I could just add one more burning thing, and it's important because it's new to us. We facilitate live testimonies of persons who can't go to Jamaica to participate in court. So whether it's civil or criminal matters, and we have facilitated about 4 or 5 since last October.
It's the way of life today. Everything has to be virtual and live. So thank you very much. That gives us a good understanding of the functions and what you do. Let me ask you, C.G. Lane, what are some of the misconceptions about the work you do at the consulate?
So thank you, Francis. And I just wanted to add that, and this is part of the misconception, that we can make it up as we go. Really, our functions are enshrined in the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, specifically in Article 5. So people may think that we can just, go with the flow. We are mandated to operate in a certain way. So that's one misconception. I think a very popular one is that we spend most of our time at social events. Now, social events are an important part of what we do. It's for networking and obviously for marketing our countries. But I think my colleagues would agree that the vast majority of our time, perhaps 70+% is spent engaging with our nationals. We are on any given day, therapist, advocate, friend, brother, sister, we really see nationals oftentimes at their lowest. And so our job is really to advocate on their behalf, to provide the assistance that they need. So misconception number 2, I think Lincoln mentioned what I would list as misconception number 3, that we engage both with the provincial, we engage with the federal government. We do not. We don't have that bilateral role. And I think the final misconception is that we can just break laws, that we can do whatever we like, and that, we won't get, while we won't get charged necessarily because, again, of the Vienna Convention, we are mandated to obey all the rules of Canada. We do get speeding tickets like everybody else, and we have to pay those speeding tickets. So it's not nearly as free-flowing as most people would think. And of course, my colleagues can add anything that I've missed.
Anything missed? My friends from the Corps, or we're good? I understand the lunch thing, Anne Marie. I have to tell you, when I worked at Bell, my daughter was 3 and she was asked she was 5, sorry, she just started in grade 1. And she was asked, what does your mother do? She says, I want a job like her. She's on the phone, then she goes to lunch, and she's on the phone and she goes to dinner. And then it starts again tomorrow. So that was all she thought I did, was have lunch and dinner and speak on the phone. So I know that misconception. Thank you, C.J. Lane. What Tracy, I'll ask you, what are some of the challenges you faced in the execution of your duties as Consul General?
So I'm just going to maybe piggyback a bit on what Anne-Marie mentioned, which is sort of being everything our stakeholders and community need us to be. So at the consulate, of course, we're focused on services to our citizens. And I don't have to tell you that when you're in the business of people and addressing their needs, you end up with some very diverse days and experiences just because of the variety of the stakeholders that you serve. So we're talking on one end of the spectrum, you have your newer immigrants as well as your more established citizens. You have your scholars and students as well as your pensioners. You have those that are permanently employed, and those that are temporary workers here, such as those that we have spread out across farms all over Ontario. And all these categories of people, they have different challenges, queries, concerns. And as a small country operating out of a relatively small mission, you don't have all manner of subject matter experts. So, tag, you're it. And, most days you have to really dig deep within yourself and harness all the component parts of your knowledge to simultaneously play a number of traditional and non-traditional roles. And Anne-Marie mentioned a couple of them. Sometimes you're a therapist, you're a HR consultant, you're an informal legal consultant. So, I get surprised sometimes by the difference between how I intended to spend my day and how it ended up being because of sometimes just one phone call.
Thank you. C.G. Francis, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Well, for me, it was sourcing various funding for projects. And when you're coming into a new role, you start to develop a plan as to some of the things that you would like to achieve. But then you quickly realize that it is not that simple with government agencies, which tend to have set policies and procedures. And unlike the private sector where I am from, you pretty much have a lot of control and flexibility over certain decisions, your budgets, but, looking at it now, I was able to get over that. But the main one for me was having to contend with the reality of the Caribbean, in particular, the smaller islands of the OECS like ourselves. We find it very challenging to gain any support from the Canadian government, especially at the federal level, which we don't deal with, but as individual countries. And it became very sobering for me, I must say, that the structure of the funding that is available here in Canada, for example, agencies like Global Affairs Canada, is more readily provided under an umbrella grouping. And so it made it very difficult for us to go get funding on our own. And I think hence the reason why, we as a Caribbean Consular Corps had to come together to have one voice, to have strength in numbers. And, that was one of those things that I had to fight with initially, but then slowly I was able to get into various donor agencies and be able to get some successes in partnering, for opportunities for St. Lucia, be it in scholarships, be it donations for the fire service, quite a number of other smaller donations, but these were some of my hurdles initially.
Thank you, CG Francis. I can relate to the difficulty getting funding. That's the story of our life at BBVA.
That's right.
So I know that in growing up in the Caribbean, growing up in Canada, it's you can take courses that and you can begin a career in the diplomatic service, because you can go to Ryerson, you can go to any of the colleges and get a degree in that. But I'm not aware, at least until I left Dominica, that we had that opportunity. So let me ask. I'll start with CG Downer. In your early years, did you envision entering the foreign service, and what brought that about?
Well, Francis, I didn't. I actually thought I'd end up being an interpreter, given my proclivity for Spanish. But it was my fifth form teacher who taught me physics as well, who thought, having been no good at physics, he said, well, you're better at Spanish and history, and that I should consider it. And I took it to heart. And so when I went to, we'll call it pre-university, sixth form in our country, then when I did Spanish and history and accounting at that level, at A levels, I thought more, yes, this is something I could do. And then I just pursued it, did the application and applied to university, and here I am.
Thank you. Thank you. CG Carter, what motivated you to join the foreign service?
Well, very similar to CG Downer. I love languages, and I repeat, I love languages, and I did French and Spanish at A level, and I also thought I was going to be an interpreter with the United Nations. That was my goal. I wanted to be an interpreter with the United Nations. However, I ended up then getting into a lot of community and so forth. And I think one of the important things, let me just backtrack a little bit and say, one of the important things I think is education and ensuring, and I say education not necessarily meaning formal education, but education in terms of experiences and opportunities. And I think that is going to be important for anybody out there, because you're not sure exactly what will happen in the end. I never thought I would be in the Foreign Service. That came much later. And I realized that all of my experiences leading up to this had prepared me for this particular position. I think it is always important for us to explore, for us to accept opportunities and make sure that we can get the experience that we need, because we don't know exactly where it will take us. Because like I said, Foreign Service was not necessarily my first choice, but here I am, and I'm thinking that I'm really loving it. And I'm thinking that everything that I would have done has kind of put me in this particular position to be a very good Foreign Service officer.
Thank you. Good answer. CG Manette, same question. What drove you to this?
Yeah, so I think we all have this common experience of this not being premeditated at all. And for me, it was sort of a combination of dumb luck and being in the right place at the right time. So, I saw the vacancy notice. I also had a background in languages and thought I was going to be an interpreter as well. So that's kind of funny, that coincidence. But it was only really when I saw the vacancy notice and did some research into the position, I realized that, this is a good way to use my language skills as well, and also engage in public service and do things that I enjoyed doing. And then also I remember being sort of shocked and then later intrigued that the entry requirements were an honors degree in any discipline. And I think that my late epiphany, hopefully it might inspire someone who ordinarily would have counted themselves out and say, well, I did my degree in agriculture or in marketing, law, maybe not international relations. So this might not be an option for me, but the truth is that while international relations, history, and those sort of backgrounds are excellent starting points, they're not the only ones. And many foreign services acknowledge that all sorts of talents are needed to get the job done. So I would almost say that the sort of degree you go after or the degree that you did doesn't make too much of a difference. What you do need is a wealth of knowledge on many different subjects and a thirst for acquiring new knowledge in areas you might not be so familiar with. So ultimately, the best way to prepare for this line of work is to be well-rounded and open to growth and learning. So, hopefully I've encouraged someone here to consider it, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the nitty-gritty of applying.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I want to just segue for a bit, because I know in our audience we have 3 of our colleagues, newly minted Consul General for St. Kitts, for St. Kitts, Miss Brenda Foreman, St. Kitts and Nevis, sorry, Consul General Huggins of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Consul General for Guyana, Gerald White. So hopefully if we have time at the end, I'll get you guys to say a few words, but if you heard the introduction and how your colleagues were blabbing about their islands at the BBPA, I will speak to the team responsible for Ask a Professional and see if we can get you involved in getting to know the Consular Corps Part 2. But we will continue with our questions now. And I'll direct that one at CG Lane from Antigua. What was your motivation to become a diplomat? I know it's sort of in line with the same question, but what motivated you? Because I know you're a long-term diplomat.
So my motivation really was, or my aha moment was a class I did when I was in undergrad on women at the UN. And just like my colleagues, I didn't see myself as a diplomat. I wanted to be a journalist. But during that class, my professor spoke about not only her time working at the UN, but also the work that she was doing with women in rural India. I saw myself really more as pursuing a career, since journalism was not going to be it, perhaps something to do with women. But that class just really opened my eyes to the possibilities, because like most people, I think, coming from the Caribbean, it wasn't something that we ever really talked about, or we ever really saw other people doing. And when we did see it, they were predominantly men. There were not a lot of female diplomats. But right out of undergrad, I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think it really has been an opportunity for me to not only explore that side of me that loves the stories, the human interest stories, that loves hearing why people do the things that they do, but also that you can see yourself really making a difference. You have to really, as Tracy said, you have to be passionate about not only international affairs, but of people, of learning new things, because every day we really do learn something new.
Thank you, CG Lane. I'll move to CG Francis, and is Canada your first posting? And if so, how have you found the experience, the diplomatic experience?
Yes, Canada is my first posting. I was appointed Consul General in Toronto in January 2017. I began my career in banking and telecoms, and I enjoy marketing, corporate communications, creating events, project management, customer relationship. And like CG Carter said, all of what I did previously really prepared me for this role. And I thought of taking on this role when I felt that, I have been working in the private sector for so long, and I needed something different. I needed to elevate myself. I was ready to work at a governmental level, and contribute to my country instead of the private sector. And so that was my reason for moving into it. And I thoroughly enjoy it because it is a role that assists me in developing people, especially the young people. Getting involved in our policy has been extremely rewarding for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was good. So I'll pivot for a second now because I'm watching the clock and I want to make sure we cover some important topics. So we're all wrapped up in this COVID-19 pandemic and its impact. So I'll start with CG Carter of Barbados. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your operations as Consul General and as a consulate?
Oh, thanks again for that question, Francis. And I think this is very important because we're in the throes of it still. As a consulate, I would say that if you want to go with the positives, it would have our social media outreach, our reach to the diaspora, sharing of information, because we're now doing that all virtually. And of course, it would have improved some of our processes as well, because now we can do virtual signings of authentications. We can do some of those virtually as well. So they have made some of the processes easier for people, and also a little faster. So these are the positives that I think that would have come out of COVID. Personally, when I say personally, I mean as Consul General now, in my particular role, it means that I am interacting with people more virtually though. It also means that whereas before I may have had, let's say 13-hour days, it means I'm now having 20-hour days. That's because there is no shut-off period. You're expected to be, you're obviously answering the phone all the time. There's no break. There's no break when, like before, you're driving to your office. Now, if you're at home, it means you're in your office from the time you open your eyes, pretty much you're on the computer. You don't have to take that break to rush to get to a particular meeting. Everything is there. So I would say, like I said, on a level of Consul General, it means now that we have increased even more now the number of hours that we've spent engaged in our activities. But like I said, there may be other things that people that others would have experienced in terms of COVID, but I like to look at it from the positive angles. And I too am very much into marketing and event planning and project coordination. And so therefore this for me has been a really good challenge as well, to improve, like I said, our social media presence and to be able to reach a larger number of our diaspora via the technology.
Thanks, CG Lane. Thanks, CG Carter. CG Lane, same question on the COVID impact.
So I think very much it has been like Sonia mentioned, prior to COVID, we had a walk-in policy. We prided ourselves in providing that personal touch. As a result of COVID, everything has moved online, and we are only doing in-office appointments for those emergency cases. But I think on the plus side, it has definitely provided us with the opportunity to use the technology to our benefit. So for instance, we were able 2 months ago to host an investment forum for members of our diaspora. We had 7 government officials, including our Minister of Foreign Affairs, participating in that forum. And we had persons from across Canada, from the United States. And that's something that we would not have been able to do prior to COVID. It would have involved, trying to figure out the schedule of a minister. And there was realistically, there was no way that we would have had 7 government officials in one location. And so I think that if we just look at the positives, and I agree with Sonia, let's focus on the positives, because there's so many negatives. Let's not dwell on those. So I think that's really how it's changed our work.
Thank you. Anything to add, CG Francis?
Well, I can say for sure with, and I totally agree with CG Carter, the fact that we have unlimited hours now. Nationals call me at any time, and I take it on because I know that we try to make ourselves available for everyone at this time, at this difficult time. But for us, like we always say, there's always a silver lining. And for us at the consulate, I think our efficiency has improved significantly. And our media presence as well, this is what I'm really proud of. And of course we have a very good young lady in the name of Daryl Montrop, who has been doing our social media extremely well. And our social media has improved significantly. And what that has done, we have been able to reach a lot more members of our diaspora a lot quicker. The information is more impactful. And, throughout all of the lockdowns, using technology, we've been able to continue to support our nationals throughout Canada. And, we all want to see the back of this COVID. I'm tired of hand sanitizer. I'm tired of social distancing. I'm just tired of it all. But it has really helped us to build ourselves in a stronger way.
Thank you very much. So CG Downer, Consul Generals are tasked with building international relations and promoting the interests of the home countries. Given the number of diplomats in Canada from around the world, have you found it difficult to get space at the table to bring the issues, to bring Jamaica to the forefront?
Well, Francis,
tell us about that.
Yes, well, each country has its own particular and unique assets, and we use that in a strategic way to bring to the fore our issues or concerns. And definitely, I believe it has been my experience that persons have been welcoming, certainly at the provincial level, whenever I am seeking a meeting. They have been open, we have been able to discuss, frankly, some of what my strategic interests are based on my governments. And I believe each of us in the Caribbean has that space and uniqueness. And even in recent times, we have had outreach from even city governments, their economic development section that wants to do business with the Caribbean. So there will always be a space for all of us, including my colleagues.
Okay, I think you've spoken for everyone then in that regard. Nationals from home countries, from the home countries of the Caribbean, turn to the consulates and the consul generals sometimes for legal help, if they are involved in criminal activity, and for natural disaster assistance. Being from Dominica, I know about natural disasters. I know what the work that needs to be done. We see the pandemic as a natural disaster. And so how have you been able to manage with your constituents, given this natural disaster? How have you pivoted? What have you done in that space, given the pandemic? I'll ask that question of Barbados.
Well, Francis, I will have to say, I'm pretty sure others will have maybe some to add on this. But I would have to say that with respect to the pandemic, I think it was important at this point in time to ensure, we do this on a regular basis, and this is a normal thing, to ensure that we're on top of all of the opportunities for our nationals. They have access to all of, well, in this case now it would be the healthcare, the vaccines, that they know where to source all of these things, and to ensure that that we can make sure that they're well taken care of. And like I said, normally this is what we would do to ensure that we know what the policies are of Canada, of the host country, that we know where to source various supplies. And that is what happened here as well with the pandemic. So it meant that we had to keep a careful eye to make sure that we knew where vaccines were available, so that we could inform our, as you say, our constituents, our diaspora. And for instance, like Jamaica, they had a vaccination clinic. and they spearheaded that. We were able to put the word out there and to ensure that any of the diaspora who had not already been vaccinated, that they knew, well, this is where you could go on this particular weekend. Also, like I said, to ensure that we share the information so that we can inform our diaspora in a block. So it was very important, and that is where I think we needed to pivot to just be very proactive in ensuring that we knew where to source all of the information, B, supplies, and D, all healthcare that we could get for our nationals. And then of course there's the SVG and the volcano, but that's a different thing. So we stick to the pandemic. Yes, I'm pretty sure the others will have something.
Yeah, CG Lane, what would you like to add?
So I totally agree with what Sonia just mentioned, but I think in pivoting also we had to ensure that we were up to speed on all the changes immigration-wise, so that we could inform our nationals. Everyone knows borders closed very quickly. We became the first point of contact for persons who either were stranded here or who needed to figure out how they could travel out of Canada to other countries. Again, that was where our the CCC was very, very helpful, because we not only became experts on what was happening in Canada, but we were also experts on what was happening in the various Caribbean countries. So we knew, what you would need to do to get from here to Barbados to Antigua, etc. But I think, I would also highlight that we also had to assist nationals in finding not just vaccines, but other resources. We all know that this was a very difficult time for a lot of nationals. And so it also meant that sometimes we had to help them get access to mental health resources. Again, I think that would highlight what we said earlier, that we are really wearing several hats. And in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, it also meant that with our very, very tiny budget, there were times where we had to allocate resources to help someone pay rent or help a student buy a plane ticket. Not something that we do, on a regular basis, but it was a disaster, right? And so we had to find the ways to assist.
Thanks, Gillian. Anybody wants to add anything to the commentary? We're good. I just want to read Diana Ali D'Souza says, each of you make Canada more cohesive, brighter and vibrant, diverse and economically more exciting. Blessings, Consulate Generals and friends. As an honorary Caribbean born in India, lived in Guyana, a child born there, our heritage is more Caribbean and friends with all Caribbean diasporians. Thank you, friend, for she's giving me a little big up there, but I won't read that one. And blessings to all of you wonderful people. Much love to Cheryl. So I had a final question on tourism, but I think you all opened up with your ad about your island. So if we have time, we'll go back to that. But I know we have a couple of questions from the audience. I know Naj has a question. Naj, please ask your question.
Yeah, so I got a question for young people that are actually kind of looking career-wise as a diplomatic area. What skills or requirements do you think would be needed so that, just share a little bit on terms of that. Me, myself, I'm really interested in within the diplomatic area too as well. I got a sister too as well that is taking political science. So we just want to see what different requirements would be needed or skills.
Thanks, Naj. Anybody wants to answer, Naj?
Yes, I will start. Having now spent 26 years in the service, I would say to you, you can, first, yes, political science is good, but I would say project management is key because you have to manage several projects over your lifetime. And certainly media, communication, marketing, something, Naja, I'm sure you will call on Nadine to help you with. And that is important too, because of what you have to do for your country, always promoting, and even with your own diaspora. We have a device for every child initiative. So that comes in place. So it's several skills. It's not just one, but you have to just take a holistic approach, as I think Tracy said earlier, in just recognizing that all ideas contend, all skills are relevant, and just go after it.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to help Naj with some skill sets that might help her?
Yeah, I just want to add, you know, even from my perspective, coming out of banking, having the marketing experience, negotiating skills, project management. I mean, initially I said, what does telecoms and marketing have to do with diplomacy? And, you know, when I got into the job, I'm realizing that the skills that I learned from my job being, you know, a corporate communication specialist, I am able to communicate with governments, even in sales, I'm able to sell my country. So really all of the subjects that you study, everything that you do plays a role in being a diplomat. You just have to be so well-rounded because everything contributes to you being an excellent diplomat.
Thank you, Sherry.
Add that you have to have an interest in international relations. Regardless of what field you're coming from, I think you have to have that interest. You have to be curious about the world. You have to be curious about other people, about other cultures, and you have to love people. Because there will be difficult days where you may not feel like you love them so much, but you have to genuinely have an interest in people. And I think if you have those plus all the other skills that my colleagues have mentioned, you will make an excellent diplomat.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just to jump in again, you know, apart from the, you know, skills and academic backgrounds, you know, just an ability to adapt is going to be very important if you want to work in this field. So for me, you know, sometimes you have to come to terms with the fact that the greatest perks of this profession are simultaneously its greatest challenges. So for those of us who have been around for some time, you know, it's way more than a job. It is a lifestyle. You have to be prepared for that. And sometimes that lifestyle can be sort of difficult depending on the stage you are in your personal life. So you will see the world, you will have some of the best stories to share, and you will work on a multitude of issues and have broad experiences. But you know, you will also move to a new country every few years, and all that, it might sound very exciting, and I'm not bashing it. It is a blessing and a privilege, but there are moments when it can be a bit draining, and you spend a lot of your life either unpacking or repacking your possessions and learning the quirks of a new country, only to leave it all behind again. So you know, you just need to be very flexible.
Thanks, Tracy. I know Michael had a question. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, it's thanks, Fran. It's not so much a question. I was just sitting there and I'm looking at the faces of the Caribbean. And, you know, and I do remember that I do have a passport which says CARICOM. So even though I know, you know, I have individual countries here, I have a passport which says CARICOM, and I know I can go all over the places. And I know, you know, it's you know, Fran did a super job. She won't take the accolades, but putting together, you know, this awesome bunch wasn't easy to get everyone available, you know, 12 to 1 today. And we, you know, I'm the treasurer of the BBP. And so when I have forums like these, I try to talk about how we deal with finances, how we help small businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of stuff we can do, but I just wanted to throw out there, to ask this awesome panel, how do you see or how you envision the BBP being assistant to this Caribbean Consular Corps? And we certainly want to do more work in the Caribbean. One of the stuff we want to do is we have been very national so far, out of province, but still very national. And just the other day at a board session, we talk about what's next. And what's next for us was, let's go in the Caribbean. We deliver a lot of programs, and that's one of the upside of the COVID, that through technology, we have been able to actually go deeper and wider in all our communities. And the next deeper and wider is, how do we get into the Caribbean? You know, the programs, even a program like this, how can we get it in the different islands? And our Saturday programs we've done for financial literacy, all the different stuff we do. And we have programs that assist small businesses. And a lot of Caribbean folks are in that sphere. So the question is, or the comment is, how can we in the BDPA work more hand in hand with a group like this to deliver practical services to our people in the community? And what is it you think you may need from us to probably assist you in making your job a little easier? Because I know you're spoken really nice about it. I look at Mr. Collin here from Jamaica, and I thought he must have started his career at 5, because he said he did 26 years and he doesn't look a day past 15, you know, so probably spent all his life there. So, you know, so it's really a two-part question. How can we in the Black Business and Professional Association help a group like you to enhance the program we deliver and get it in the Caribbean? And is there anything we can do at our level to make your job a little easier?
Jump in, colleagues. Anybody wants to take the first crack at it, I'm good.
I can start the ball rolling here, and I can say, well, for Barbados, specifically now, I speak for Barbados, and I say that we have, and I think I can speak for the others as well when I say that we have thriving diaspora associations, and they work very closely with, you know, entities in our Caribbean territories. And I think we are all very aware, and you would have heard it before, that you know, things within government, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of things have to happen, and it takes a lot of time sometimes to have those kind of relationships that we want to have. And it is usually very much, it's easier to work through the associations. So for instance, for Barbados, we have almost like an umbrella association called the Barbados Canada Association. And it is, I think it is something like that if I can make sure that I give you that connection, the BBPA with a connection, say the BCA, they are, like I said, an umbrella for a number of associations, Barbadian associations throughout. And like I said, the other Caribbean territories have similar associations. And that may be the better bet at this point in time. And well, I'm speaking for Barbados at this point in time, and I'm saying that is probably our better bet. We would have our associations, for instance, our BCA has like MOUs with various agencies within Barbados as well. So there's where the link comes, and we can guide and offer assistance in terms of information and, like I said, guidance on how you can get things done. And I think that's how you can make our job easier as well. If you're talking about what happens here, when you tell us what your programs are, what you're doing, we can pass information to our associations. That helps our diaspora as well. That helps the Caribbean people within Canada who are doing things, who are having small businesses. We help to get that information out there to our diaspora as well. The others can jump in.
Thanks. Anybody else wants to?
Yeah, and if I may add to what Carter has just said, I mean, even through the pandemic, since we have been promoting several of our businesses, young entrepreneurs in Canada, entrepreneurs on the whole, we are looking for avenues for training for those entrepreneurs, opportunities for their businesses. And we are aware that, you know, the association, the Black Business Association, does have a lot of those events and initiatives to be able to train young business people and to mentor them, like Del Sol is doing with the young lady on there. We have several of our young people who need that as well. So once you share that information with us, we can share it with our associations. They need that support. And even the Caribbean Consular Corps, we were looking at an event prior to COVID. We were looking at an event that can bring all of us as a Caribbean people together, something that we can celebrate annually. Remember Del Sol and Anne-Marie, we were looking to see how we can come together. And I know the BPPA has an annual event. How do you help us to create an event like that for the Caribbean people?
Incidentally, our board actually reflects the Caribbean. We've got Jamaicans on the board, we've got Barbadians on the board, we've got St. Lucians on the board, we have St. Kittians on the board, or Kittians, how you pronounce it. So we do have, we also have people representing the continent. So we have got a nice Caribbean blend on the board, and certainly, I'm certain we can assist, and that's the kind of area I was thinking about, how we can assist in, not just a celebration, but the actual hands-on delivery, as you say, mentorship, the training, and the technology allow us to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to add also that linkage with our promotions agency of each of our countries would also give you inroads into the Caribbean, and that will be useful because, as I think it was C.G. Marvel Carter who said, you have to navigate the bureaucracy so you get to understand the do's and don'ts, and your program specifically will, once you get also an understanding of what's happening. For instance, every 2 years we normally would have our diaspora conferences, and so that would also be an opportunity to partner with not only Jamaicans in Jamaica, for instance, but Jamaicans across the world. So you have to look also at global forums to promote your message.
Yeah, I think the mentorship is very, very important. I know a lot of what BBPA is doing right now is focusing on entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, and I think there is definitely there are opportunities for collaboration. I mean, those are the types of things I can say for Antigua and Barbuda that we are focusing on, how to get young people from sort of conception to market. And I think there are definitely opportunities for that sort of collaboration, BBPA with another grouping in Antigua and Barbuda. But then I also think of the students that we have here. Perhaps there are opportunities for BBPA to do sort of like a mentorship or a career day where you really talk about, not only the work that you're doing, but assist them in sort of conceptualizing a lot of, these types of things, because we all have it in our heads, right? We all think that it perhaps is so simple, but when you start to do step by step, you realize that there is more to starting a business. How do you access financing? How do you put together a business plan? So I think those are areas that BBPA has a lot of strength and definitely could be beneficial.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Tracy, do you want to chime in, since you were the only one we didn't give a chance on this question?
No, I think my other colleagues have really covered it pretty well. I really think that BBPA's strength in mentorship is a great asset, and we'd be happy to be the conduit through which those connections are made between the organization and our diaspora.
Thanks, Tracy. So we're on the other side of 1 o'clock, but I just want to read, we got from Marie Claire Walker. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. I think we need more webinars like this. Important to keep connections with what's happening in the region, and more specifically countries of origin. Keeping a connection to the region has assisted in my leadership and within the labor movement, including my role as governing body of the ILO. Eden Bowers from Dominica. Thank you, Francis, for inviting me to this vibrant forum. It has been an eye-opener. Good luck all, and it continues. Thanks, Nadine, Francis on the BBPA and the Consular Corps. So clearly, we had a good turnout today, and this was well needed. So I heard from Brenda Foreman. Are you still with us? If you put your video on, and Gerald White, are you with us? I can't see them. So if you speak, can you say hello, Brenda?
Yes, I'm here with you.
Okay, so just a couple words before we end. Introduce yourself.
All right. So my name is Gerald White. I'm the acting CG at the Guyana Consulate. I've been in the Foreign Service for 13 years. What motivated me is the Rwandan genocide and the lack of intervention from the UN. That is what really motivated me to join the Foreign Service. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
So when we do, Gerald, when we do part 2 of this, you will have more to say. Thank you very much.
All right, no
Brenda,
problem.
Brenda, are you on?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Brenda. Just
Thank you,
introduce
Francis
yourself.
and the BBPA. You guys are doing an amazing job. I love this forum. My name is Brenda Foreman. Most people within our community know me for other things, but I got into and I was given this position or this opportunity to serve, which is what I always want to do. It's just been amazing. So thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. I know this is not the right time, but thank you, and thank you for joining us today and being with us. And our thoughts are with you. I wanted to ask, I know that our Vice President Ross is on the line. I wanted it before I do the final closing, invite him to say some closing remarks. Ross, are you with us?
I am. Thank you, Francis, and Consuls General. Thank you for taking the time to come and share with us. I am a proud St. Lucian from the beautiful Helen of the West. So I see my CG thumbs up there. But Francis, thank you for this time. I want to share with everyone on the phone, on the call today, that the BBPA, as most of you know, are always looking for opportunities to help our Black businesses grow. One of the things we struggle with is access to networks. As a Black community, we don't have the access to the networks as everybody else, and hence the reason why we're always a step behind. One of the tools that Black businesses should have in the toolkit is a tool called Golf. And the BBPA is hosting the very first golf tournament next week, Saturday. And I'll give you some details. But the reason for this is for us to come out as a community and share, network, and also enjoy a round of golf. So you don't have to be a great golfer, but you can join us. We encourage you to come. Frances has a set of dusty golf clubs, and she'll be dusting them out and joining us. If you want more information, you can go to our website, bbpa.org/golf, and all the information will be there. I am excited for our community. We're going to be sold out, and we're going to help our businesses move forward. And that's what we do at the BBPA, is help the businesses. Now, having said all of that, I'm going to steal one more second. I sense a trade mission to the Caribbean happening here with our small businesses in Canada. Okay, I think we can find avenues for our businesses to bring the skills, their products to the Caribbean, and vice versa. So I wanna just share that, and let's talk more about that. Let's have more of this dialogue, because I think it's important for our community. Thank you so much again, and thank you, Francis.
Thanks, Ross. And last but not least, Claudia the Cargal from Montserrat is looking forward to part 2. Great job, One Caribbean. So again, my sincere thanks to my colleagues from the Caribbean Consular Corps, to those who were on the panel, to those who joined us. C.G. Huggins from St. Vincent and the Grenadines had to leave us because, as you well know, St. Vincent was devastated with the eruption of the Soufriere volcano. The fundraising effort for St. Vincent is still ongoing, and we ask you to support where you can. And so we will have another group of my colleagues on part 2 of this, getting to know the Caribbean Consular Corps. So the BBPA has a number of programs that we deliver. Our next week, as part of Ask a Professional, we will be doing a day in the life of Zero. Zero is one of our partners, and if you want to know more about Zero and what we do and what Zero does, join us next Wednesday. Every Wednesday we have Ask a Professional. join us next Wednesday for A Day in the Life of Zero, hosted by none other than our Vice President, Ross Kadas. On Friday, we have an awesome team who will discuss, it's face-to-face, who will discuss the recently launched government loan program. And on that session, you will hear Tiffany Callender, who is the CEO of FACE. You will hear Nadine Spencer, who is on the board of FACE and also the president of the BBPA. And that again will be moderated by our Vice President, Ross Kadas. And lastly, on Saturday, we ask you to promote to join our financial literacy class, where we talk about the power of marketing incentives and the government, the power of markets, incentives, and the government. That's on Saturday for financial literacy. That's one of our very popular programs. So I wish to thank all of you who tuned in today, that you spent your lunch hour with us. I wish I could have given you lunch, but that's not possible. But I'm sure we filled you up and we brought you some sunshine. So thanks again. Once again, thank you. Thank you to my colleagues on the Consular Corps. Thank you to all who participated. We'll see you next Wednesday. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, BPPA.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Frances.
All welcome.